So what do you reckon the chances are of getting this Mac Classic 2 working? Shall we find out? So this is a Macintosh Classic 2. It was sold to me as not working. They pretty much all are. I think this has the classic zebra stripes, so it's almost certainly either battery bombed or the capacitors have leaked. And yeah, let's turn it on and have a look and see what it does. So it's plugged in. I've switched on the mains. Let's just try it out, because you never know. It may do nothing. And indeed, it appears to be doing absolutely nothing. That's interesting. No smell. That's a positive sign. Let's open it up and take a look inside. So to get into this, we need the extra long Torx screwdriver, because this is a long way down. Fortunately, there's only one screw in the top. There it is. No screw in the other side. These two are easy. And then this will just lift off. So there we go. We've got the power supply board, the analog boards there. That could possibly need recapping. And we've got hard drive and the main board down here, which we will need to take out. I want to quickly thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. No matter what kind of printed circuit board you need, whether it is your own project, and these are boards that we've previously seen on the channel, PCBWay is the ideal fabrication house to do it. Just upload the Gerber files, set certain parameters like the board colors and the number that you want, and starting from $5 for 10 boards, you will have them in about a week. And they don't just do PCBs, they also do CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, PCB assembly as well. Assuming that we get this working, we have this board here, which is a PCBWay shared project, and this is a 6888882 floating point board for this machine. So assuming we get this working, we are going to build one of these in an upcoming video and put it in there. So check them out, www.pcbway.com, and check the description for a link to get a discount on your first order. Yay! Before we go any further, we want to discharge the CRT just in case it has managed to get any power onto it. So we've got our magic discharge tool, which is a screwdriver with a lead attached. And basically we plug the lead onto the earth, and then this we go up inside and that is discharged. Now let's take the main board out and also this board out. The main board should just slide off, so we need to unplug the SCSI. Let's unplug it from here. There we go. And then we unplug that, and it should begin to slide out. We can now unplug the power. Oh, and there is a battery that we need to remove. Come out, come out. Well, it looks clean in terms of rust and stuff. So you can see around here that that looks like it's been wet and capacitorated. So we're going to need to sort that out. This will come out. actually doesn't look bad. We can see there's rust around there, or it looks like there's rust around there, but this doesn't look like it's leaked. If that's a date code, then 91. Yeah. Okay. There's some crustiness around that connector. So we are going to need to recap the board, give it a good clean, and then it's a 4-ROM version, so this is the first revision. My other one was a 2-ROM version, and recap it. So the egret chip quite often needs to come off and be cleaned up underneath it and resoldered. Maybe some of these others will. We'll come to that as we come to it. 2 SIMs, I don't know what size they are. They do look a bit dirty, but I think that's just dirt. And of course it's possible that the ROMs have failed as well, because that also happens. There we go. Let's have a look at the analog board. Take this off. So there's a screw here. It's going to need a good clean inside in any case. And this will probably need new capacitors. So what's going on there? If you can see that, that looks kind of black and gungy. That could just be dirt, but it could be something else. These are the reefers. That's got a massive crack in the top. There you go. That one's got a massive crack in the top. And that one's not far behind it. So I suspect these may have already let go. If not, then they're going to let go, and we need to replace those. I don't think I have any of them. So I'm going to go away and clean these, because you don't really need to watch that, and we'll come back when they are a bit cleaner and we can have a look more detail. Okay, so I've given it a basic clean with a brush and got most of the dust off. I've done the other boards too, and it was absolutely filthy. So there's definitely signs of capacitor juice around, well, all the capacitors. And these 2 ICs here, this is the egret chip. That typically needs to come off and be cleaned underneath, and maybe this and maybe this and maybe this. Sometimes we need to clean the RAM underneath as well, and we need to lift these ROMs and check those to see that we can read them. Possibly we'll need to burn new ones. The battery doesn't look like it's leaked, and we can see from the battery itself it actually looks pretty clean. So it's lithium anyway, it's not a NiCad. So yeah, so maybe that's worked in our favor. So I think the first job to do with this is take these capacitors off, then give the board a good cleaning. If we have a look on the other side, then you'll see that there are signs of corrosion around these. I think they're jumpers here, but you can see with the wires there's little green spots. And over on this side you can see the little green spots coming through the wires. So that's leaked. And there's some furry bits on some of these components. So, and of course this is the big bank of capacitors here, and this is the capacitors here. So that's obviously leaked through. So that's all going to need to be cleaned off, and we can clean that off with some IPA, and then I think we'll put it through the ultrasonic. Before I lose track of them, I'm going to label them with their U number, so we know where they've come from. Then I'm going to bobbitize these capacitors. You probably won't like me for that, but it's tough. It's my favoured method. Right. Because as far as I can see, it results in the least amount of damage. You are free to disagree with me for all the good that that's going to do. Okay, soldering is iron is on. We'll go for the little ones first. Captain Bobbit. There we go. So now we'll just clean these up. And to do that, we're going to apply some fresh solder and some flux. I've gone over this side and cleaned it with all this gunge. You can see that. And I've done this side as well. But I'm still going to put it through the ultrasonic to give it a good cleaning. And then, I mean, this egret chip, the legs cleaned up quite well. So I'm thinking maybe that's going to be okay for now. We shall see. I'm going to put this through the ultrasonic. For you, that will take no time at all. And then we'll start looking at the analog board. Okay, I got some flack last time for checking some ROMs with the T48 instead of my Arduino EEPROM programmer. So this time I'm using the Arduino EEPROM programmer. Right. So these are the 4 ROMs out of the Mac. In here it goes. Now these are basically a 27C010, so I can go. And that gives me the details of the ROM. So it's basically a 128K by 8. So that gives us, it's 32 pins. So we should be able to read that. And this is U22, which I have written on the top. 27C010 U22.bin. Okay, ID does not match. So we can force it to ignore the ID. We just say -F, I think. Well, let's double check. Yeah, -F. And there it goes. So let's just do the others. Make sure it goes in the right way around. That's pin 1. And this is U23. Learn to type. U24. It is reading them okay, or it seems to be. And U25. Now the way these ROMs work, they are basically a 512K ROM that is split into 16 bits or 32 bits. And so each ROM is interleaved, so you've got like byte 1, byte 2, byte 3, byte 4. So when we do a comparison against the ROM file that I've downloaded off the internet, which is like 512k, then we have to look at each byte alternately from each ROM. So the file is going to be split both ways. So here we have, you see each one is 128k, and I can open that up with HexFiend, and so yeah, that looks like stuff. And so when we compare all 4 ROMs against the downloaded ROM, we can see that U25 is byte 1, U24 is byte 2, U23 is byte 3, and U24 is byte 4. And they match, so it looks like these are okay. So let's have a look at the analog board. Now I've done some basic cleaning up of it, got rid of most of the dust and so on, and basically cleaned the cables, or at least kind of cleaned the cables. The big concern here is these 2 capacitors that have what looks kind of like a soot deposit on them. So I wonder if that's something off that regulator, or that inductor maybe. They don't look like they've blown out. And then these, I think they're class Y capacitors across the mains input. These big cracks in the top, that doesn't look right. So I'm going to take the back off. We've got all these caps to replace, and we're going to go through them and basically replace them. Now I've got some capacitors left over from the last one of these that I did, and I've got some new ones. I've gone for worth capacitors because they are red and it makes it easier to see which ones I've done, of course, apart from the big one, which is going to be black. So basically what I'm going to do, and here's the cheat sheet of all the values and their positions, so I'm just going to work my way down the sheet, tick them off on here, and then they will be done. I am concerned about this, so I might start with those. They're 470s. 470/25. Right. These ones won't be red, these will be black. And we need 3 of them. And we've got 3 of them. So 1, 2, third one. Okay, now I'm going to clean the board as I go along. So the big chunky bar is positive. Now I'm not going to keep showing these because my analytics show me that you don't watch it. So 90% of you just skip through any soldering montages. So really, unless you kind of tell me that you want to see them, I don't really see the point in me filming it and showing you it, because it is bad news on my analytics and consequently on my retention. And retention is quite important because it helps grow the channel. If you skip stuff over, then YouTube is going to stop showing people my videos, and that is not a good thing. I am not going to bother showing any more soldering montages unless you tell me that you specifically want them, and then demonstrate that by not fast forwarding through them or skipping over them or just turning off. I will come back if there's anything significant. Otherwise, you will see me at the end of this. So it is mostly recapped. There are just a couple of values that I'm missing. This one, which is 1000 microfarads 25 volts, and this one, which is 47 microfarads 16 volts. And of course there's these 2 reefers that are well and truly broken. 10 nanofarads. I need to get some of those. So I'll order those parts up and then we can finish this off. And then hopefully the logic board will be out of the ultrasonic and we can finish recapping that. Onwards and upwards. So now coming back to the logic board, we can put the new capacitors on. I have got a set of caps here. Most of these are worth capacitors, which are nice because they are red, and that just helps to see that they are new caps. These ones are in fact Panasonics. There's 3 of these. These are the 47s. And I've got my recapping guide, which I can go through and mark off as we do them. We have 3 values: 1 microfarad, 10 microfarads and 47 microfarads. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 1 microfarads. So they go here and here. I'm going to put some solder on this end. Put in some flux. Right, so put some solder down this end of, there we go, and then the positive side, which is the side that does not have the stripe, goes there like that, and the same with this other one. Then we turn the board around. A little bit of goo. Bit of solder and it's done. So that's the 1 microfarads. So as before, I'm going to come back when these are done. Now, if I'd been filming this, you would have seen it. I discovered that this capacitor here I had put on backwards, and so I took it off. And in the process of taking it off, I managed to rip off the pad. And not only did it rip off the pad, but it pulled the trace, here it is, right the way back to here. So we've stuffed that. Now I printed out the schematic and we can see roughly what this is. And there you are, this is the DFAC, which I believe is the sound chip. And C15, that is C15, goes between pins 12 and 13. And the connection that we have broken is this one here. What I think we can do is we can make a bodge wire go between the end of this capacitor, and I'm going to put a fresh one on, I'm not going to reuse that, between that capacitor there and pin 13, which is that one there, second one in on that side. And we can just run a bodge wire from there to there, and that I think will do that. So I'm going to cut that off with a sharp knife because that's not going to do anything anywhere useful. There we go, that's exposed that bit of track. Then put some solder on that. There we go, that's basically tinned it. And then I can put a little piece of wire that goes around to there, and we can then solder to that. So this is the stuff we're going to be using. It's enamelled copper wire, 0.3 millimeters. So basically we just solder the one end to our trace. Like that. And then the other end is going to wrap around onto there, so we'll cut some of that off. And then stick it down with some Captain tape. Okay, and as before, just tin that. So that is soldered to that end. And that is soldered to that end. So we should be able to beep. This end to there, and this end to there. Good. There we go. So one mishap that we have managed to repair. I'll just clean that up with some IPA and it will be done. So this is back together now, and I've got a fresh battery for there, half AA size. While I am waiting for the analog board and the final few capacitors for that, I've got my other Classic 2, and we've looked at this before. We've not managed to get it working. I do believe that the analog board in here is fine. It's just the motherboard that doesn't work. You'll remember we changed the CPU and faffed about and basically didn't get it going. So what I'm going to do is put this into here and see if that will actually make this machine work, and then we'll have a working machine. It won't be the working machine that we started with today, but we're going to get the analog board done. But it would be nice to know if this is actually going. So I'll take this apart and we'll set it up. Okay, here we go. The back is off. We just need to slide out the motherboard. We don't need to take that apart. So there we go. Let's put the battery in. Plus this way around. And that is the replacement. This is the old one, which you can see was recapped by Tum. Again, they used Worth capacitors, and that's the CPU that I put on. Not particularly well, it's got to be said. It doesn't go in any case, and I haven't figured out why. Right, so we'll plug this in and switch it on and see what it does. Right, no particular expectation. Turn the plug on at the wall. Right, here we go. Here goes nothing. 3, 2, 1. Ooh. cursor. I've no idea if the hard drive works or anything really. I guess that's a no. But that's okay, we've got another one, we've got a different hard drive. So we know we've got a good logic board. Right, excellent. And we know we've got that good power supply, and we know we've got a good monitor. So we'll get a working Classic 2 if nothing else. So the last few caps have arrived. We've got 1000 microfarads 25 volts, and we've got 47 microfarads 16 volts, and we've got some reefers. So let's put them in. This one goes here. And then the two reefers, these are slightly smaller than the previous ones, but they are the same value. These go in here. There we go, so that should be ready to go back into the machine and we can try it out. So the way these work is you start with the rivets pulled out. Then you just put them in the hole and push them down. And that's done, we can put it into the machine. That goes on there. So let's just see if we get power to the hard drive. So we should just be able to measure voltage rails on there. 12 volts. 5 volts. So let's put the motherboard in and see what we get. Okay, motherboard is in. Hard drive is wired up. Did that off camera, we didn't really need to see that. Okay, so plugged in. Turn it around. Moment of truth, we know the motherboard worked in the other machine. Here we go. And it's kind of not doing anything. 12 volts, 5 volts, so that's working. It could still be that there are other problems with the power supply. We can put the known working power supply into this machine and see if that works. That will test the CRT and the other bits. So here's our original machine. You'll see it's got the label on it, if you can read that. It says what we did to it and when. So I've already taken the power supply out of that board. So, fan header. CRT. Screw it in. Goes on there. Goes on there. And that goes on there. Right, that should be everything. Right, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can hear the hard drive. Hard drive doesn't sound very good, but it's actually booting. Okay, we don't have a keyboard or a mouse plugged into it, so there's nothing that we can do about that, but that is a boot. Next thing to do is plug a mouse and keyboard in and see if we can get any further. So, mouse and keyboard, this has come off my LC630. I apologise for its disgusting state, but it really does need cleaning. I've put the case onto this. It's not screwed on, it's just loosely held on to protect me from it and it from me. So here we go. Let's see if it will actually boot. Happy Mac. Welcome to Macintosh. Right, the mouse works. I have no idea what is on this hard drive, it's just whatever was on there. So I'm planning to put in a blue SCSI because you can hear this, it's absolutely horrible noisy. See what we've got. System 7.5. Total memory 10 megabytes. I think that's as far as you can go on these. So don't have network attached. So this is a 40 megabyte disk, 14 megabytes used, 24 megabytes available. Yay! Now we still have to figure out what's wrong with this. It's been recapped, but there are other things on this board that can go wrong, and indeed we did replace some other stuff on that original board. So this is further to look at. What I want to do with this is put a blue SCSI in here. And do we want system 7.5, or I've heard it might work better with 7.1. Let me know in the comments what you think is the best operating system for a Classic 2, and indeed what other software we can put on it and run and so on. Another thing we can do is expand this to put in a Mathco processor card. I don't know what particularly would use it, but I have some PCBs for that, and we know where they came from. They came from our sponsor, PCBWay. That's interesting. It won't do 2025. Do you know if there's a fix for that? Please let me know in the comments. So thanks for watching. Please check out my Patreon if you would like to support me in that way. You get early access to all the videos, you get ad-free access, and there are more features coming. So see you next time. See ya. Bye.